There's never a good time to buy something. There's never a good time to implement something. There's never a good time for anything. So why don't they just make it now, right? And at the end of the day, a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, that's kind of pushing the sales process. But it's not, because at the end of the day, they need to get the result, and the quotas are not going to change just because somebody's going to take a break for Christmas.
Welcome back to the Prospecting Show, where each week we talk about tips, tricks, and methods for growing an amazing small business pipeline. I'm your host, Dr. Connor Robertson, and on this podcast, you can expect segments on communication, sales, prospecting, and closing. Thank you to everyone who has supported my 100 episodes and the 100 days goal going into 2020. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the show. Early Monday morning here at 9:17 a.m. Today's episode is going to go after scaling with different systems in place after 6 months of being in business. And a lot of people that I talk to are going to say, oh, well, I don't have the kind of business that can be scaled because I'm a one-man show or some excuse. But every single business can be scaled. It's just a matter of knowing what to do, when to do, and how to do it. So today we're going to go over 6 items that are going to help you after 6 months of being in business. Now, this definitely applies a little bit more to people who have the flexibility to have remote workers. So if you're a healthcare provider or, a physician or a lawyer or something like that, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because there's going to be some limitations around having a professional degree to do some services. But at the end of the day, these systems are going to be put in place pretty much regardless of what kind of business you have. So let's talk first about operations. The number one thing you have to get right before you get scaled is operations, which means that you need to have the people in place, but you also have to have the systems in place. And when I say systems, I mean things like automation, things like process improvement, things like getting organized with your business, having a calendar that makes sense, having a Calendly link linked to your Gmail calendar so that you know when to do things and when not to do things. So the way you scale operations first is you systematize everything. You make a video using QuickTime. You basically film everything in your business that you do every day. And then you also install Rescue Time, rescuetime.com. That comes, again, directly from the 4-Hour Work Week. And one of the interesting things about rescuetime.com is it basically just tracks what you do every day. And the reason I say it's worthwhile tracking for probably 14 days is that will allow you to see what you do every day and what the big time sucks are. Then you can take those tasks and make sure operationally you outsource them. So with operations, you're going to focus on all of the fulfillment of your job, whatever it can be done to help you with fulfillment. So that could be, if you're in a chiropractic office, that could be scheduling. That could be setting up notation. That can be taking down notes. That can be recording intake forms, things like that. If you're in a small business and you're kind of doing the laptop lifestyle, that could be whatever fulfillment you have. Are you running ads? Are you doing business development? Are you offering SEO? Whatever the fulfillment is, I consider that operations, and you should start by getting that right. The next thing is the account manager. So there's 2 parts to fulfillment. One part is managing the actual client, and the other part is actually doing whatever service it is. So if you go back to the healthcare example, you need to have a practice manager, practice representative that would be talking to all your patients and making sure that the fulfillment's going well, but then you'd also have the individual providing the care. And you'll see this in almost any healthcare profession, that they have some practice or office manager that oversees the whole thing, and then they have the actual doctors who provide the service. So that said, that's kind of how you should set up the operations and account management piece. You should have one account manager for every 20 to 30 hours worth of account management. That way you can always add more on and you have some redundancy. If you max out every account manager to 40 hours a week, then what's going to happen is if one leaves or one gets sick or whatever, there's no coverage that can exist. So if you had 100 clients and each account manager can do 25 clients each, don't give them 25 clients, give them 20 clients and hire 5 account managers. It's like a computer. It's best to operate at less than full capacity so that when there is a problem, you can actually level that up a little bit. Once you have account management done, you need to have an operational overview. So that's going to be something like a COO. And that might, it's a formal title, but at the end of the day, it's just about keeping those account managers accountable. So you did the fulfillment, you got your operations and systems all put in place, then you got account managers to manage the people, and now you have somebody who's going to oversee all the account managers. Now in a really small business, that account manager and the operations person might be the same person to start, but the account managers could also be virtual assistants that you're paying $4 to $6 an hour. Now because of that, they're going to have great skill set and work a lot of hours, but you need to have someone who's checking in on them, making sure they're doing what they should do. Once you have those three things done, operations and systems, account management, and then an operations overview person like a COO, the next thing is you need to go to a sales team. And that sales team could be all contract. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, you have to sell. If that's healthcare, if that's medical equipment, if that's professional services, if that's design, SEO, web development, lead generation, doesn't matter. You need to have a sales team in place. And the way you get that is you first start with a contract salesperson and then switch to a salaried salesperson. The salaried salesperson is still paid on performance, but you give them basically a draw against what they would do each month once you know they're going to cut it. After you have that done, you tie that sales team into the operations manager, the COO, to make sure that the COO can see new business coming in the door and all the fulfillment. Because the account managers are dealing with the fulfillment one-on-one, the COO can still kind of look in two different directions, one at the sales team and one at the operations team, to make sure that both are being fulfilled so that you as the CEO can step out of your business. The last part of that is everyone always says, oh, well, that sounds like a lot. It's complicated to manage all these people. Well, it's really not, because your operations person is going to manage your account managers. So your COO is going to manage the account managers. The account managers are going to manage the clients and the operations. And the COO is also going to manage the sales team. So that leaves you with basically accounting. And the way you fix that is you get QuickBooks and you set up banking automation, and either it's on salary or commission, doesn't matter what it is, but you set up automations and workflows to make sure that everybody is paid regularly for whatever service they're providing. If it's sales, you kind of do these one-off sales payments. If it's not sales, it might be a recurring commission, you just set them up on a recurring retainer. It doesn't really matter, but automate the parts of your business that could be automated. And one of those biggest spots is banking. Don't be a pencil pusher. Don't push paper around all the time and just say, oh, well, I'm doing banking, I'm doing accounting, I'm doing that. That's an easy fallback to get out of doing what you know is important, which is sales and operation. So my recommendation is always make sure that you focus on the things that matter. In the operational structure, if you don't have time to make all the videos, what I would do is recommend you train your first account manager on everything you're doing and record those videos as you're training, or train them and then ask them to go back and basically look at what it is that you've trained them on and make videos themselves. Get a Vimeo account, upload all those videos there, and then you should spend some time to review them on the weekend or evening so that they can understand, that you can understand what they've put together. And then also when you get a new account manager, a new operations person, or a new process, you can always be adding to this database of skill sets and items that you need your team to be doing. So always record that content. And then when something becomes irrelevant, get rid of that piece so that when you implement a new person, your training process is very systematized. If you have to sit there and train every single person one-on-one, it's actually a huge issue. And because of that, it's going to slow you down. You always have to go backwards to go forward. So to minimize the risk impact and the difficulties that you're going to have with having more and more people on your team, systematize the process, make the videos, show people what you do, explain it, record some phone calls, show them what they should do, what they shouldn't do, how to make it better, how to make it worse, all the different things so that they feel super comfortable what's going on. And then you can focus exclusively on sales, so you can just push it, so that at the end of the year, we're going into Christmas here, you definitely do not want to be focused on doing the wrong things. You want to be focused on sales. How can you help people going into 2020? There's never a good time to buy something. There's never a good time to implement something. There's never a good time for anything. So why don't they just make it now, right? And at the end of the day, a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, that's kind of pushy in the sales process. But it's not, because at the end of the day, they need to get the result. And the quotas are not going to change just because somebody's going to take a break for Christmas or New Year's or whatever it is. So make sure they have the systems and processes in place. And when you sell your service to other people, make sure that they have a system in place to be able to handle whatever it is that you're doing. So just as an overview, get your operations person, then get the account managers, then get a COO who basically can oversee the account managers, then build out the sales team, go back to the CEO and integrate them with the sales team. So 50% of their time is on operations, 50% of their time is managing the salespeople, because that's all operations together. And then get into banking automation and process automation on the back end. Make sure you film everything you do in your business. Doesn't matter what kind of business you have. There's always room to film what you're doing. If that's on the computer, or that's just an audio, or that's a video and an audio of you talking, doesn't matter. Create a training series, make it easy for people to understand so that you can bring on new people without having a problem. Hopefully those are some good tips for you today. Thank you so much for listening to the Prospecting Show, and have an awesome week.